This page shows some of the carvings and turnings I've done in the past. This is a picture of the finished house that we used in this demo. The purpose of this demo was not to have you carve a gnome house that looks like mine, but to show the techniques I use that you can apply to your design. If this is your first time to this website and you have an interest in carving a gnome house or just want to see how I make mine, I suggest you watch the full video. You will see how I prepare the cottonwood bark to get it ready to carve from beginning to end. I will talk about my thought processes as I go along, the different stages of the carving, including the tips and tricks I have learned over the years. I suggest you pause at this index page, and if there's any topic you'd like to review, just fast forward to the time indicated. My introduction. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Bill Goff. I'm a member of the Chattahoochee Woodturners, as well as the Atlanta Woodcarvers Club. Shown here are some of the gnome houses that I've carved. The last house pictured is the one I'm going to be using in this demo. All these houses were carved from a bark of a cottonwood tree. It's a nice wood to carve. It's soft, it's easy to work with. I think you'd find it an enjoyable project. This is a picture of the finished house that I used for the demo. Selecting and preparing the cottonwood bark for carving. This is how I go about getting ready to carve one of my bigger houses. I select the wood I'm going to use for the project. Then I flatten my sides that I'm going to glue together with my joiner. Here it is, clamped and glued up to dry. And this is the finished block, ready to carve. For your first house, I recommend you start with a piece of bark big enough that you can finish your house without making a glue up, similar to the one shown in the picture here. Alright, enough of this stuff. Let's get into the part you come to see, the tips and tricks. Okay, here we go. How I carve my shingles. Okay, we're in the process of making shingles. Normally, I'll shape my roof. I'll get the roof the shape I want, roughly. It may change over time, but basically I want to keep this shape. I first of all put lines on to determine where I want the shingles to run. With a pencil, I'll make lines. After I get the lines on, I decide where I want to split the shingles. I usually split them with a shingle above it. And the size is not important. The size, since this is a fantasy house and gnomes are not known for making shingles, we can put anything on here and they're going to love it. So we divide it. I'm going to put a split there, and I look at the shape of the roof. I'll put the splits to kind of carry the curvature, and then I'll go down here and I'll find a split. I'll split that. I'll do that for the rows that I want to work with. I'll look at it, see if it's something that I can live with. Okay, well, we'll just do these 2 rows. That'd be enough for this. And then at this point, we determine, we actually go in here and do some with the wood burner. Now I use a what they call a knife tip on this one. This is nice to make the creases that actually the outline of the shingle itself. I leave it warm enough to actually the wood burner will do most of the work for you. You don't have to do a whole lot with the wood burner. Let me get this. Okay, now we determined kind of where we want the shingles. I'll just start by there's that line. There's that line. I'll determine how far in my head where I want this to come. We'll assume right here. Okay, that's a shingle. And then this one here, not necessarily the same place. I might go a little lie. These shingles are not cookie cutters. They're individual shingles. I'll go over here and I'll say, yeah, about right here. Yeah, didn't tighten that up. I'll go right here and I'll make another edge of a shingle. Again, the bottom line is not important. I'll decide when I'm doing it right now whether I will make it a little longer, which I think on this one I'll make it a tad longer. And I'll just come across. Okay, and then we'll come over here and we'll split this one. And we'll come around, I might even make another one over here. Okay, I'll come around, this is where I want that shingle to end. And over here, I'll just come up here and do that. Okay, split this shingle. I think I want this one a little short because I'm getting close to the edge of the roof here. And I don't want it to get too small at the bottom. So I'll come over here, I'll make another one. This one I think maybe a tad longer. Okay. And we'll make a bottom, I'll make it come down a little bit. Okay, same thing. I'll come over here, I'll look. Now I want to keep my lines kind of shape the roof. So I'll carry it down here to the roof, the way the roof's going. Again, I'll come over here and make it go here. Come over here, make another shingle. Okay, that's okay. Make it here. I'll come over here. Okay, I'll come down a teeny bit. Come over here. Carry the roof line. I'm kind of going with the flow here. I'll come over here, do the bottom. Okay, here. And you don't necessarily have to use your pencil mark. You just visually decide where you want to go with it. But the pencil marks kind of help keep you organized. Okay. Okay, I think this two lines here, this what we've done here will be enough to demonstrate what we're doing. Now, after we do that, I determined each shingle, I want to get the shingles a depth. I want them to have character, have depth. So I'll take my carving tool and I'll come in here and I'll taper the shingle. Now, what you want to make sure that you do is you want to make sure you got a stop cut. Because if you don't get a good stop cut, you'll end up shearing off the top shingle above it. And you don't want that. So I just go in here and I start tapering. Nothing precise. This is a gnome house, so they don't care what it looks like. Taper it. I'll usually put one above the other. Again, I'll go up here and I'll make a stop cut, and I'll come over here. I'll decide what I want to do with this one. One of them will be up, one down. It just depends on what I get to when we're there. Okay, I put the taper. I'm taping the shingles, but I don't want them even. I want one above the other. I want them to be staggered, different heights. Stop cut, so don't chip it out above. You want to make sure you got a decent stop cut. Because the next thing you know, you're going to be cutting the top of the other one off if you don't have a good stop cut. And does that light create a problem with the camera?
Yep, you're great.
Okay. Okay. Again, just some depth there, just whatever. Nothing. Don't have to be exact. But that's what's nice about the way I make my gnome houses. There's some people, they want to be very exact. They want all the shingles to be perfect, like they were laid there in a machine. I don't want that. I want my house to be very, very uneven. Okay, I'm going to do a few more of these and then we'll go on to the next step so you can see how that's done. Okay, just going in here, doing some different layers, different depths. Okay, over here. So we're not going to spend a lot of time because I think you got the idea of what I'm doing here. So we'll end up with this one. I'll show you the next step. Again, make your stop cut. Make your stop cut. Okay, that's okay. Now at this point, we're going to actually form the shingle. By that I mean I want to undercut. I want the shingle to have hang over. Oops, I got to turn on my. Wait a minute, I got to let it warm up. I had it turned off. Sorry. That just take a second. Now I want to redefine my cuts.
What tool are you using for this one?
This is a tip. It's called a knife tip, and it's the same one I used to do the layout, the original layout. At this point, what I do, it should be warm enough. I go back and do my dividing lines again. I separate the now. At this point, I want the top shingle to hang over the bottom shingle. If you try to cut that with a knife, you're going to end up chipping this top shingle. You need to use you need to let your wood burner do the work for you. You just go underneath that a little bit. It'll cut. It'll cut like butter. And you'll feel it. Just don't push it. You'll feel it go. It'll. Okay, now I'm going. If you watch close, I'm going under this shingle. Okay, now again, I'm going to divide that shingle. I'm going to make sure that a definition. I want each shingle to be staying on its own. I want it to be hanging over. And again, if you look at it, you need to go back. Just go back. Just go through it. Okay, and over here, same way. Now I need to go under it. I'm going to let this shingle lap over, and you do that with the wood burner. Again, I'm going to deepen my divisions to make each shingle stand out. Okay. That's as far as I got with those shingles. But these aren't ready to underlay because I didn't lower the ones below it. But these 4 shingles, you do all your shingles that way. You just pick the shingle you want, and you go over your division lines. And okay, at this point. Okay, assuming that you got that, you're happy with your shingles, your sizes, and your taper, and you went under each one, I can go under these 2 over here. Okay, I go under that. Again, you'll feel it. It'll sink itself in. It'll burn itself. Over here, I go under that. I'll go under this one. Just let it go. Don't force it. You'll feel it. It'll burn itself through. Okay, again, I accent the division lines. Okay, now we got this row done. At this point, we want to put the texture in the top. Using the same tool, the knife tool. I come in and I make. Whoops! I don't want it that hot. That's burning too much. At this point, I just want to give the illusion of having texture in the shingle. If you get it too hot, it'll burn. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. Don't worry about it if you get it burnt. We're going to fix that anyway. In fact, we do some of this intensively and go back and lighten it. And I'll show you how to do that. Okay, we just go through all this. Now I need a little more. I got too cold. You need enough to put lines, but you don't want it to just actually burn it. You just put all these. I'm sorry, that light probably needs a little higher for you to see everything. Okay. Again, you just keep making little serrations until you are happy with the texture. Again, you can keep going back through the divider to get the feeling you want. Just keep doing that. Put the lines in, and then you just kind of keep the lines with the flow of that particular shingle. If the shingle's angled, make your lines angled. Just follow the shingle. Let the shingle be your guide. Again, I need to go under here. I want this overlap more. Do that. I need more heat with that. To cut, you need a little more heat. Okay, there I'm going under. I'm making that overlap. Again, I want this divided. I want that to be more. Again, now I can just go back and do my texturing. And this wood is not the best wood I've used. This is kind of crumbly wood. Hopefully you'll get a better piece of wood than this. But you can still do it. I mean, it's working okay. It's just harder, and you got to be a little more careful. Again, I want these dividing lines to be, I need a little more heat. I want these dividing lines to be very obvious. Okay. Again, I'm back here putting texture in, just making little slices, not just putting enough pressure on it that it will make a little. Okay. Okay. Now I want to go in. If you could get, you can always go back and do it over. If you're not happy with the undercut, cut it again. Just keep going until you're happy with it. Okay. Now see, I'm getting a little dark, which is okay. In fact, I want it a little dark. Okay, here, let me divide this one. Again, I'm going back and just looking at until I get the effect I want. This one I want to undercut a little more. I want that to be. Now, again, if you're trying to do this with a knife, you're probably going to chip this out. Because this, you're actually not putting much pressure on this. You're letting the wood burner do its job. Okay, I'll do a couple more of these and I'll show you the next step. Okay. And here's a picture of the finished shingles we were working on in the demo. How I carve the stone. At this point, I'll talk about the stone. We're going to show how I do the stone, some of the techniques that I use to get the effects I like. I start with a pencil. I'll pencil in what I consider a stone, and if I like the shape I do, and sometimes I don't like what I draw. It just didn't fit right. So I'll erase it and draw something else. Okay, I'm just kind of, and it's funny, stones have a character. You don't necessarily want them round necessarily. It depends on what you're trying to do. But I don't make them all round. I make them odd shapes, and they come out of the ground. Hard to tell what shapes they'll be. So I kind of do my own thing, and if I like it, when I get done, if I like it, I'll leave it. If not, I got an eraser. I'll start over. Now, when I got my pencil lines, so I'm happy with what I'm seeing with the pencil. Again, I have the same tool. I use this tool an awful lot. This is the knife burning tip tool. And I'll go back where I did the pencils. If I'm happy with the lines, I'll go ahead and put the, I'll burn the, oops, I'm on the wrong one. At this point, I've penciled in my areas that I want the stone. I think I'm basically happy with what I've got. I'll turn this up fairly high as a temperature, and then I'll go over the pencil marks that I'm happy with. And I'll just burn in a stone, an outline of a stone, not a stone, just an outline. And if you don't follow your lines, that's okay too. It's as long as you're comfortable with what you end up with, what the heck. Okay, I'm going down my pencil marks. I kind of like the stone so far. And they go over the top. Okay, and this one goes down here. Now this particular piece of wood has a little crack right here. So I'm going to make the crack of the stone. It goes in that crack, and it kind of camouflages the fact that it's got a crack in it. And that's what's nice about doing this and not trying to be so exact about everything being perfectly square and round and whatever. Okay, I'll do a little bit more and I'll show you where I go from there. Okay. Now, that's far enough. It'll illustrate what we need to illustrate. I'm gonna, okay, one more line here. Now, when you get these bigger stones, you want more depth. You want to know that they're stones. So I'm going back over and deepening some of this drawing that I did. Now it needs a stone up here, so I do that. Okay. I got that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the wood burner and I'm going to go to the drill. I've got the line that I've drawn in. I've deepened it with the wood burner. Now I'm going back with the drill. This has got a bit. Now I usually use a little different bit, but this is going to illustrate what I do. I go back in the lines I made, and this will help you helps the drill from drifting. If you follow the wood burning line, a slow drill will drift on you. It'll go out of the line. The faster the drill, the more exact you can be. So I need to get the air. I'm going to bring a little air can with me too. Now we take our drill and we go over the lines that we burn in. That kind of helps us from creeping, walking. And then you just go deeper. I'm going to come over here. I think these stones are easier to see. We'll just do a couple of these. Okay, we follow the burn line. Just keep following your line until you get the depth you're comfortable with, how you want your stones to look. I go deeper than probably most people would because they think they're going to go too deep, but I like the depth. I like the look of the depth. Okay, now if you do that, you need some air. You need to see what's going on, and you can blow this out so you can see. Now, if you're kind of happy with what you end up with there as far as the look, now I've got some that I need to clean out, and you can't see it with the sawdust in there. Okay, we're only going to do this stone right here for display, for sample. Okay, now blow that out. Now I go back to the wood burner, and we take the same tool, and now we'll go in, and we want this area that I drilled out to be dark. So I pretty much burn that in. I turn it up pretty high because I want it black. I want the depth in there. I want you to be able to look down the bottom of see black shadow. Okay, it's getting warm. Okay, I'm only going to do this one stone here for a sample. Okay, now that for the sake of the demo, I'm not going to stay here and blacken it any more than it is. But, okay, now we've got it, assuming we got it black. Now, I don't like sharp edges on the stones. Personally, I like to smooth them up. And I smooth them up with a sanding tool. Or a file. I've got some metal files I'll file. I'll just look at the stone, and it's amazing how much that little bit of sanding will change the feeling of the stone. It makes it more realistic. I'll take that, I'll round that corner off a little bit, just knock it. There's no rights or wrong here. You just sand it till you feel like you like what you see. I'm going to sand that a little more there, and sand the other side. And okay. Now you'll see this stone kind of come together. It'll start looking more like a stone when you start sanding. And just keep sanding it until you're comfortable with your appearance. And you might want to smooth out the front. Now, okay. We'll assume we got this stone the way you want it. That's not too bad. I would probably work with a little more if it wasn't time involved here. Okay, again, I'll blow out the shape. Now, at this point, I change the burning tool to a paddle, which I don't have out here. There it is. Okay. I'm going to change it. This is a little flat paddle that I find that's pretty handy. It's not as, you can blend with it. You can kind of use it to smooth out stuff. And actually, I've dropped it and it bent, but I really like it bent because you can get in corners that you couldn't get when it was straight. So I take that, I turn it on, and at this point, again, we're putting in the shading. We want to weather it. So I take it, and these corners that I sanded, I want them to be darker. I want them to blend. Okay. You can even, don't worry about it, because like I showed you the rest of the stuff, if you get it darker than you like, there's always sandpaper. You just knock it down to the color you want. That's what I'm going to do with this. But I want that darkness from the bottom of the groove up around the edge of the rock. So I want it to look weathered. Okay, now I'm getting out here. And the bottom of the rock will be weathered down back next to the ground. So, and then you just color it wherever you want the color, just put the color in. And then like this one, you want some over on the rock. Okay, just keep doing what you're doing until you like the results. If you don't like the results, sand them off. And I do that too. But I want it around, I want it the darkness to wrap around the rock. Okay, we're assuming that section is okay. Now, like I said, at this point, I bring my sanding out, and I'll go over some of these high points that I got dark, that maybe I don't want that dark. I'll just sand them off, sand them down to where I get the color, the feeling I want. And I think that looks pretty much like a rock. How I carve the siding. Okay, now we're at the point where we're going to do some siding. I'll show you how I do siding. There'll be other people who has their own way of doing it, but I'm going to do mine the way I do it, and let you decide how you want to do it. We're going back with the same burning tool. We're using a knife burning tool. I went ahead and I penciled in some siding here that I think basically the size and where I want it. So I'll show you what I do at that point. Again, we take the burning tool, we outline where we want the wood and how we want it to run. I'll take it, I'll burn this right here, I'll come down and make this and come down here, around here, down here. Okay, then I'll come over here, and this wall is round, so I'm going to let my boards fall. I want the same feeling as the boards. I want it to come around. Okay, now I'm down here. This will be a small board. I'm going to make a different size. It'll be a small one. I'll come down here. In fact, I think it'll come over into this board a little bit. It'll be a little bigger. Okay, I'll come up here. We'll do another one. Let's see. I think I'll come over here, and then okay, I'll do this. Just come down here and make a board. Okay, another board. Again, I'm trying to kind of let the siding flow with the shape of the house. It's round, and I'm letting the boards kind of follow the contour. Okay, this one here this is a pretty aggressive curve here. So I want the boards to kind of follow that procedure. Okay. Okay, I think we've got enough to demonstrate the technique, and I'll start with that. Okay. We have the siding here. Now, what do I want to do to the boards? I want more than one board here. So I'm going to look at it and decide, well, I think this board's going to be about this long. I don't want necessarily a straight board. I'm going to angle it. Let's do one over here. This one board. Let's make this one. Let's cut this off up here. Got a little piece of wood there. Maybe we'll do one right here. Okay, that one's going to have 3 cuts. That'll be enough to demonstrate. I'll do one more board here. Okay, this is a board. This wood is really not, this is a very poor piece of wood, but you can make it work if you take your time. Okay, there's it now. Now we're going back and I'm going to put some texture in it, depth. Here's where I get my carving tools. Where's the other one at? Oh, here it is. Okay, here's the tool I'm going to use. It's a flexi cut tool. It's a small tool, but I'm just going to put some contour in the wood that I laid out here. I think again I don't want it the same depth. I want some up, some down. I want some character in it. I just cut it. Okay, stop cut up here so it won't chip out. You always at the end you want to stop cut. You don't want to ruin the rest of your roof or the siding or whatever you're running into. So where you want to stop, put a stop cut. Okay, that particular board's probably as deep as the one. Now I'm going to make this and undercut that one. It's going to butt up, but it's going to come up. Again, I want to stop cut. Normally the wood burning stop cut will work, but just to make sure I usually put one in with a knife, reinforce it with a knife. Again, I'm just going in here and going to the edge, contouring it a little bit, make the wood. Now some people don't do any contouring, they just put the wood up, just lines, just leave it flat, leave it like smooth siding. I like to put character in it, I like the depth. Okay. Okay, I'll do one more and then we'll show you how I finish it. Okay, I did. I don't want these butt ends to be flush. I want them to have some variations in depth. Okay, I think that's probably illustrating how I do it. Now, same as we did with the shingles, I want to come back in and reinforce everything with the wood burner. Now these techniques that I do is basically self-taught. I don't know of anybody that I've picked up what I do as far as the wood burning part of it and the texture and the depth. That's stuff that I just played with, and if I liked it I put it back in. If I didn't, I don't do it anymore. So I'm going over the lines I originally made with the wood. I want to define them again because some of them I cut out. Okay. Now, same thing here. Now, I'm not going to take a lot of time. And again, I would take my sanding tool that I talked about, and there's all kinds. There's files, sanding tools. There's Lamar was talking about fingernail files. He uses fingernail files. He talked about some kind of a glass fingernail file that he likes to use to sand and file stuff. I haven't used that, but it sounds like it should work fine. Okay, now, again, I want a texture. I look at it and I want to weather it. So things that are set in under shelter, they would be darker because they don't get wore out. I mean, so I want that darker. That's the end depth of the wood. Same thing under this hang over here. I want to come in there. I got this a little hot. Normally I don't have it quite this hot, but that's all right because, as I mentioned on the shingles, you can lighten them up with the sandpaper. This is really pretty hot. It's burning pretty deep without much effort. Okay, I'm just gonna. These aren't textured over here, so I'm not going to do any more with it. But that's basically what you do. You just look at and follow the contour that you want. Okay, once you get that in, again, I don't like the color, so I'm going to sand it. Take my little sanding tool, and I'll just go in there and lighten it up to what I like as far as the look. And this is all personal taste. Again, you don't have to be too concerned about your wood burner, because you can, in most cases, you can go back in there, and this one here, I need to darken that up a little bit. This one here is the end of a bedded board, so I'm going to go back in with my wood burner, and I'm going to darken the undercut. Okay, that's enough to demonstrate it. Again, I go back in with my sand and you can get the feeling I want, the color, the texture, with the sanding tool. Okay, now you kind of got the idea. You can see that some of them that's on the other side is finished. You can go around the back side. You can see some of the wood that's textured and depth, and the color. It gives it the aged look, the weathered look on the back side. Okay, we'll come back around to the other side and we'll do a little bit more and we'll be done with that part of it. I can go in when we're done with the videos here. Well, I'll answer any questions and probably cover some of the stuff from slides and pictures and stuff. But again, you go back in with your wood burner and redefine your cut lines. Bring them back in so that they show up, so they have texture. And then where they butt, we redo that. And that just kind of accents the siding. Again, this is my way of doing it. Those that like to be exact, and you wouldn't want to do my procedure. But what I like about it too, I like the look when I'm done, and it's so forgiving. You can make boo-boos big time and cover them up really easy, because you're not trying to make things perfect. It's whatever it is when you're done. But coming in here, you can see that wood kind of starting to come out at you. Yeah, I can do this one. Now this one needs relieved. But okay, that's kind of. Let me do this. This board is button up. I'm going to let this one come up a little low. I didn't get that. Okay, we'll do a little more. And there you go. It's kind of butts up. Now again, you take your wood burner and reset the. Get hot. It's not quite hot. And again, put your weathering in. Do your wood burn. Okay. Go back to your sanding tool. Do whatever you want to do to get the color you want, the feeling you want. You can redo it as many times as you want. Okay, that's kind of. Oh, another thing. I like to put nail heads in it. I think it's, and I do that with a tool. What did I do with it? I'm sorry here. We're going to go to a different tip on the wood burner. This is one I think they use for like signing your name and writing. It's actually just like a little ball on the end of that. And I use that little ball to make the nail heads. And I'll show you how I do that. You get the board. I usually put 2 nail heads in the end of a board. So this will be, and you just touch it enough to, you don't want to make a big, if you get it too big, you'll burn a hole in it. You don't want that. You just want to just touch them and hold it long enough. You'll get the feel of it. And put the nail heads in. So all you got to do is just touch it. You hold it too long, you'll make too big a hole. Okay, down here's where we just did. Okay, depending on the size of the board, Sometimes I only put one nail head in. Okay, just touch it. And I think the little nail holes and the little detail like this, I'm going to put one nail there. That boards a little nail. Okay. Yeah. I think the little detail can make the difference between a red ribbon and a blue ribbon. If you're showing stuff. Okay, that kind of demonstrates how I put the nail heads in. How I carved the chimney stone. Okay, now we've finished a couple rocks down here that we like for the base, and the same procedure, the same technique is done like chimney here. I pencil it with a pencil. I got the sizes to where I want it to come down to where I want to taper it down. I used a wood burner. I deepened the pencil marks. I took my grinder. I ground them out. And then I burn them just like we did here with the big rocks. And then I took the sanding tool and then I rounded it. These were sharp. I didn't like you don't like the sharp edge personally. I want to, in fact, this is not quite done. I'm going to go back and tweak this stuff. But you can just keep sanding until you like it or start over. And that's how you do the chimney, and that's how I do my foundation stone. And earlier he passed around the other house that had more stone work done, and you can see that way it's done with the tapering and the coloring and the burning and all the stuff we just did. It's completed over there. So that kind of covers the stone carving the way I do it. That kind of brings you up to this is the area that I do my carving. This is right after, in fact this is during the time I was setting this up. That table doesn't look anything like it does now because it's full every inch. I don't hardly have room to lay a pencil. This little house I call my mother-in-law's house. The reason I'm showing you this, I want to show you how I got access to clean out the inside and put in different table and chairs, a fireplace, finish the floors. Here's a picture of the inserts that I used to fill the holes back in. I used to clean out the inside of the house. There's an opening similar to this on the other side of the house that I could come in from both sides. This shows it after it's been hollowed out and before the inserts are put in. Here it is after the insert has been set in. Here's the opening from the other side before the insert was put in. Here's another angle preparing to hollow. Another angle with the hollowing process. In this picture I'm trying to show the table and chairs. If you look close you can see the planking on the floor and on the walls. Here's another picture looking through the door to see the table and chairs and the planking on the floor. I wasn't able to get a picture of the logs in the fireplace. This is a picture of my first gnome house in work in progress. After I got it completed, I was coming back from carving, loading some stuff in the car. It ended up on the roof of the car. I got in the car, I drove off, and 2 hours later when I got home I realized I didn't have it, and I got thinking and I realized it must have fell off of the roof of the car. So I drove back my path that I'd come, and I finally was getting ready to give up. I looked over at the curb and it was laying in the curb, all bounced up, all made up on the road. So I brought it home, I rebuilt it, I repaired the bad spots, put new wood on, recarved it, and ended up entering it in the Perry County Fair or National Fair, and it ended up winning a blue ribbon. So that's the story of my first gnome house. This shows the finished house after it was repaired and ready to enter into the fair. If you carve something you don't like, figure out a way to change it. This window I carved, it just didn't work with the house. It didn't look good. So I decided to replace it. I cut it off. I got another piece of wood. I carved a window that I liked. Then I glued it. I held it in with rubber bands until the glue dried. This shows the replacement window after it was finished. Sometimes you have an area that you don't have wood that you really want to carve something in. In that case, I just add a piece of wood that I can carve the way I want it. Here's how I added a couple of pieces of wood so I could carve the shutters. Here I added a block of wood so I could add steps to the front of the house. This shows the steps after they've been carved. Here's another block of wood I added to the chimney so I could reshape it later. If you're wondering how I hollowed out behind the windowsill, I cut a hole and hollowed out the inside and left 2 glue tabs so I could put the window in later. Here's a window I carved to fit the windowsill. Here you can see the finished window. Brought this along just to go down memory lane. The first thing I did when I came to the club, there was a member, Gaines, that gave me a boot blank here, and he gave me some tool. When I came, I had no carving tools, nothing. He gave me a knife and a glove and a boot blank. Here's a picture of the finished boot. So I'll pass this around now. Be careful with this because this is a little fragile. The burr is. But I'll pass this around. And that was my first carving that as I go. Like I said, this was the ugliest piece of wood I ever started with. I was so frustrated with it, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So
I tried to give you some.
Huh?
I tried to give you some.
I'll still take it. I'll back my truck up. You know, I can carry a lot of wood. I'm old, but I still carry wood. Now, yes, to answer your question. Huh?
We'll tell your wife.
You could tell my first wife? Oh! By the way, it's the same one, you know. I can't wear them out. I try to wear them out, but she sticks around. Okay. Now, talk about detail. This one here, I thought, well, what can I do with this? I needed something here. I just put a little welcome sign above the door. It says welcome. This one here, I put the welcome sign on a stick out in front. And that holds the lantern. That welcome sign, one of these lanterns will hang on it.
The original.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the one I lost.
Yeah, there we
Oh,
go.
okay. There's a little lantern that will hang on that. And this I didn't glue in because I was afraid of breaking it off if I moved it. So I just stick it in a hole when I go someplace. Here's my lantern and my little welcome sign, the stick. I carved this out of a piece of wood. That wasn't a stick, that was carved. And the little hook on it and everything. Okay, that's all wood. But then I just I drilled a hole so that fits in snug. And that's my welcome sign.
You're talking about the balconies.
Yeah.
Oh, back to the balcony.
Well, the question was, did you add on to the balcony?
Oh, no. I
That
cut it in. Now, that was part of the wood. That was a good question. Thank you. No. On this one, I looked at it and I said it was an ugly boot and I didn't like it. And so I just said, I gotta put some depth in it. I gotta give this thing some form. I gotta make it worth looking at. So then that's when I carved. In fact, one of the pictures showed it. I started carving up here and I carved this this landing. Now this landing I may put a railing around this landing. You know, I just keep looking and I'll do as much thinking as I do carving. I may put a railing here. I'm going to add some more stuff. I'm thinking about maybe putting a little log chair here. Maybe even a little table. I don't know. These are just all things that go around my head. Whether it'll happen or not, I don't know. Let's see, what else can I show you? No, to answer your question, all this stuff was carved from the wood. Nothing added on.
That was with your vibrating tools?
No, I pretty much carved those, I think. I'm not thinking back now how I did that. I used one of the, actually, there's a couple. I use this flat, just a flat, yeah, where's it at? A lot. Anyway, it's like this, only tapered. It's flat, and I use that to carve a lot, to rough out.
Oh, a skew chisel?
Yeah. And, let's see what else. Yeah.
But you don't use a knife, you use a chisel.
That's the one you had on your video, Bill.
What? Yeah. Well, no. Well,
No, that was the flat.
that was a small one. The bigger one. One of those in there somewhere. Anyway.
The question was you use a chisel rather than a knife.
Yeah. I don't use a knife. Well, no, I don't use a knife much. I've been using these tools. I mean, I will use a knife, but no, not much.
You got me in trouble.
Bill, I want to ask you a quick question. What kind of glue are you using? What
Okay.
glue are you using?
I use 2 or 3 kinds.
Okay.
When I glue the big pieces together, I just use wood glue,
Okay.
the yellow glue. When I'm doing, let's see, what would I glue? Sometimes I use epoxy. Like when I put this in, this is my flower. This will fit in this flower box. When I get done, this set of flowers will be in this flower box. Now, I'm going to rework on these flowers, but I don't like bright flowers. When I paint them, they're bright. But then I take a real wash of black paint and go over it until I dull it down. Till it's, I'm going to put some yellow stuff in this. In this section, I'd like to talk a little bit about my thought process, how I come up with the ideas, and how I made stuff, and how I changed things, and just kind of explain some of the steps I went through putting this together. This picture here shows the basic glue up that I started with. I usually start carving on a house to determine the roof line, the shape of the roof, where they're going to be, if it's going to be 1 or 2 floors, or the roof is kind of dictates the rest of the placements. I really didn't like the shape of it. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, how I was going to cut it. So I looked at it for a while, and then I just figured, well, I got to start someplace. So I had to give it some depth and some feeling. So I started carving the steps to the 2nd floor. I went up about 1/3 of the way. I made a little landing. Then I changed directions with the steps and took them up to the 2nd floor. And from there I went back and shaped the front of the house, as the picture shows here. I like to add points of interest to my houses. This is what I've added to my demo house, which is candle lanterns, flower pots for the windowsills, separate flower pot, brooms, stovepipe. These are all things that people can look at and spend a little more time with looking at your project. Here is a rain barrel. That's another point of interest. This shows a rain barrel in place. Here's a picture showing the bed with the quilt on it and the cedar chest at the foot. Here is a view that you can see through the balcony door, the edge of it. I forgot to get a separate picture before I installed the bed. You can also see the broom in its place outside the door. Here's the flower pot sitting on the ledge outside the attic window. This is showing the flowers after they're in the flower box outside the window. Here's the pot with the flowers on the edge of the steps. This is showing the stovepipe after it was installed on the roof. The welcome sign and lantern is shown here over the door. Here's a candle lantern next to the balcony where it's installed. Here I'm showing how I installed the doors on the balcony frame. Here's a picture of the door that I've carved to put in the balcony. Here it is after it was glued into the door. Here is a picture of the carved flowers before they were painted and glued into the flower box. Here's a picture I showed of the added blocks that I put around the door so I could finish carving the door. This shows the balcony that I carved that I'll add to the second floor. This shows the insert for the shingles over the door. This shows the picture of the balcony and the shingles over the door that's finished and put on. This shows the chair and the broom after they were installed on the balcony. This brings us to the end of the instructional portion of this video. I would like to acknowledge those that made it possible. I want to give a big thanks. I want to acknowledge Ryan Mitchell for his talent in making this presentation. Without him, there would not have been a video. I want to give thanks to Ryan's father, Tim Mitchell, for putting this together and volunteering his son to do the work. After Ryan finished his part of the video, he took it home that night, he edited it, and brought it back the next morning so I had time to finish it for this presentation we're watching this evening. I also want to thank my son Dave Goff for his helping me with the software to produce this video. If you have any questions, I've included my email address, and I'll be glad to try and help you with anything that you run into or would like a better explanation of. Just email me at bgoff30045@yahoo.com. I'll do my best to reply. So that I don't accidentally delete your email, please type in the subject area Gnome House Demo in all caps. That'll help me locate it and without accidentally deleting it. It's my hope that you'll find this information helpful in your future carvings of your gnome houses. May God bless and happy carving. I would close by showing you a few pictures of the finished demo gnome house that we used in this video.